Oh, holy smokes. I didn't see you guys there. Welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about something that's on everybody's mind. We're going to be talking about Gaza and all the BS that's going on over there, the genocide. That's it. And today we got Mo Hamza. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. It's, like you said, taking it day by day, all the nightmares that we witness every single day, but, doing what we can to shed some light every day.
I wanted to ask you, what in your life, just personally, when did you get acquainted with the full picture of what's going on over there?
Well, I'm actually Palestinian through and through. So I've pretty much since birth been acclimated into it. My father is very staunch, obviously, in education and being able to educate his children from the get-go on the situation in Palestine. Just to give you some historical context, my family is actually both sides, mom and dad, are from Palestine originally. Where my grandparents on my dad's side, and great-grandparents on my dad's side actually, are from Ain Kanem, which is just outside of Jerusalem, and my mom's side is from Tubas in Palestine as well. And they were all, displaced in the Nakba of 1948, where pretty much the entire family were refugees that fled to Jordan, predominantly Amman, Jordan, where they all essentially reside today, my whole extended family. So as a child, pretty much I would always go visit Jordan. Never got a chance to see Palestine until very recently, actually. And I luckily was able to visit Palestine as an adult with my wife and child in September, just like 3 weeks prior to the madness of this last year. So we just dodged all the craziness. So it's been maddening to watch, but I've been aware of this since I was a child, essentially.
So you just said you went there. What was it like when you went there? The first time going there and understanding?
Out of body experience, man. It's like the best way I can describe it. It's very tough to put into words what it's like over there. You experience pretty much every single range of emotion possible because you feel this sense of euphoria where you're in your homeland, and it's so beautiful. I got to actually experience a lot of the areas from Akka to Jaffa to Haifa to Jerusalem, and see like all the different geographies and different it's just a beautiful place. But at the same time, you step foot into all these beautiful places and see them completely occupied. Like the town of Ain Kanem, where my father is from, is completely fully occupied, and I stood literally in front of my great grandparents' home, standing right in front of it, and their settlers lived in that home, in a sense. So that's where you get that range of emotion, where it's a beautiful sense where you're in your homeland, but at the same time you have this level of immense anger, sadness at the same exact time. So it's very difficult to describe, but I'm just really happy that my son was able to experience it at a very young age, where I was not able to. And to be quite honest, it's also very difficult to experience because I have aunts and uncles, which have instilled in me also, like similar to my parents, all my pride for Palestine. And they, as adults, as very fully grown adults, honestly going into their 60s, 70s, have not been able to step foot into Palestine once. And that was another range of emotion that I felt, where I felt almost a level of guilt that I was able to see and experience all of this, all of what Palestine is, where my extended family majority have never even seen it once.
Did you go through like the checkpoint, go into occupied Israel?
Yeah, so we were able to essentially travel through my American passport. That was like the saving grace for us, is we had an American passport that essentially would let us roam a little more. When I say freely, I'm air quoting it because it's not really free. When we still have a lot of they know I'm Palestinian. My wife actually has a Hawiyya, which is like the Palestinian citizenship card. If you have that, that's an automatic flag in the system that you need to essentially get checkpointed in any form or fashion. They check everybody's IDs, and it's a lot more stringent for us than any another settler coming from Brooklyn. In a sense. Sure. So
white guy like me with Jeffries, they'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
He's got freckles. Yeah. So I mean, it's unbelievable that it took Americans so long. Do you think there's a lot of people around you, or like they're just unaware of like what's going on? I mean, in New Jersey, there's a lot of there's probably a lot of Zionists on the East Coast or whatever. But like America in general seems to be totally obtuse to the story. And I know I was up to a point, up to recently.
No, I mean that's the thing. In all of my years of shouting from the rooftops, it sounds cliche in a sense to say like this is the time where I feel it the most. It's very true. Any Palestinian will tell you that has been shouting from the rooftops, and to avoid that, it seems like no one's hearing us. We actually feel like we're being heard now. I know that we're going to essentially discuss all of the censorship that's happening, but which is greatly affecting us. But at the same time, we have such a unanimous, like gigantic voice across the globe, not just the U.S. It's just really being felt across the globe. And I have direct correspondence with Gazans right now as we speak that are telling me directly saying like, we feel it now. This is the first time that we're feeling a change, a movement. They're scared for their lives every single second of every day, but they have this sense of hope now because of what they're seeing and what we're witnessing with these students, and the future essentially is really bright given what we're seeing across the world and predominantly in the nation here in the U.S.
And I am sort of doing it from my own cushies, Western comfort zone or whatever. But my thumbs are tired from constantly being on the internet trying to make sure I get the word out, because it's not just this. I'm trying to tip over the American establishment for everything it's done to my family and poor people everywhere. Like I was homeless for 15 years and I saw the very worst part of America. And I'll never forgive America for being the way it is. And this colonialism is just another thing. So,
no, I mean, it's actually directly tied. And I'm glad you brought that up, actually, Chris, because the fact that, like, I'm sure it like pains you even like being homeless previously and just having a very close relationship to that very difficult time in your life. And a lot of folks that are actually experiencing it as we speak, where we're literally witnessing this giant chunk, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that are literally going to a foreign government to kill children. I can't even like paint it in any other way, rather than invested in the people that are here in this country, that are going through the most absurd hardships, like just in general, not just homeless people, but just in general, like folks that are living paycheck to paycheck, multiple jobs, that are not able to afford healthcare, are not able to afford college tuition or education for that matter. So to see that for like 23 billion just recently being approved to go to a foreign government to continue this onslaught on a innocent civilian population is maddening to us as Palestinians. It's obvious, but it should be maddening to every single human being that is an American. It's madness that not everyone's yelling from the rooftops like we are.
And the America First crowd, all of a sudden, when they want to bitch about Ukraine, that's fine. But then when it comes to Israel, they're like, no, Israel is the 51st state. Like, make up your fucking mind, first of all.
No, the hypocrisy is madness, man.
Yeah. So going on to the censorship. Yeah. So what have you been seeing? And I'll just pepper it with what I've seen as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you directly. I've put up some videos just showing the blatant evidence of what's going on. It's very easy to, have these conspiracy theories or conjecture of what is possibly happening, but it's very clear what's happening now. It's a systemic effort. It's actually being felt. Like I have correspondence with a lot of the big voices now on social media that we have direct correspondence around, like what we're feeling. Like, for example, Janan Matari just got her account suspended completely. She's one of our strongest voices. And myself, like we all felt it. Like everybody hit me up. Everybody sent me a message saying, "Hey man, are you experiencing any like weird things happening?" And like multiple accounts have said this. I was like, "Yeah, man, there's for the past 6 months, the craziest things have been happening, but just recently with this, student movement and us being able to expose not just what's happening in Gaza, but what's happening here in the U.S. and exposing our absurdly corrupt system of law enforcement and government and politicians. That was like the red flag for them, and we all systemically felt a complete silencing by and censorship of social media. Where on my end, I have good standing. Like I made a purposeful effort to not really go against the guidelines, which are so absurdly it makes no sense. It's so objective based on what they want to, based on them silencing us. But I have good standing, and it actually says, "Thank you for abiding by the guidelines. You have full access to your privileges on Instagram." when in reality, that's a complete lie. I'm currently not able to collaborate with a lot of these big voices. Like we as social media, and as you know, Chris, like we like to collaborate with other big voices so that we can enhance or, increase the reach, so that we can educate folks that don't necessarily, are not necessarily my following, it's other following as well. So that's the reason why we do it. It's not for likes. It's not for, notoriety or fame or anything stupid like that.
Sure, shit not really,
it's just yeah, exactly. Not at all. So that's the thing. It's like, we're trying to get the word out. And whenever, like, now is a critical point in our history where things that we are exposing are so detrimental to our nation and our government, and exposing every single lie that they've been telling us, that now it's being felt across the board. Like, I can't even like posts. Like, people tend to like follow me to see what I like or see the people I follow. I'm not able to follow anyone anymore. Like, I can't even click. When I click follow, it says, sorry, you're not able to follow because of things that may be affecting, I don't know, the safety or whatever stupid thing, notification they send me. But I'm not able to like or follow anything, and I can't collaborate anymore. So now I'm essentially in this weird limbo Instagram jail where I'm only speaking to my followers that all already know what my stance is. But at the same time, I'm like so proud of the people that are currently following me because they are understanding the assignment, as they say, where they essentially are taking a lot of the content I'm putting up and really are blasting it as much as humanly possible on social media. And one thing in particular, though, that they're actually sending me through messages is that they're not, now some of my content is not being able to be shared on stories. They're not letting them at all. And then they're actually unfollowing my page. Meta has gone as far as to actually unfollow my page for people without them knowing. And we're calling that like ghost unfollowers, where a lot of the big Instagram social media influencers, like CEO Lawyer, for example, has lost tens of thousands of followers out of nowhere. And to give you very context on like why this makes no sense is I'm very clear on what my stance is for Palestine versus Israel, right? It's very out there in the open. It makes complete sense if I'm going to lose followers on October 7th, for example, or for the week after that, because I was very direct with my stance. I've experienced this obviously this has been happening for 76 plus years, and Sure. I've been yelling this from before October 7th. So that makes sense when I lose followers. If I'm losing hundreds and hundreds of followers per day at this very moment, that is absolutely a blatant, it's very blatantly obvious what Meta's doing at this point. Because the people that follow me, and it has been steadily increasing, but the people that do follow me know exactly what my stance is and know that I'm only for facts, education, and making sure I get all the information out there. So for me to lose hundreds of followers a day, which are blatantly obvious from the insights, it's a clear affront to my account from Meta.
And so that's one strategy that I've seen other people. They've screenshotted, their post. You can't like something. You would press the heart, it'll light up, and then it'll go away. You're not the only one that's happened to. But there's also other strategies that they're using, like sending in trolls to bait you into using language that will get yourself banned. And this has been a technique been used in the last 10 years. Chat rooms, Reddit, social media, and stuff. Yep. It tends to work. So I've seen all kinds of shit like that. Yeah. And not to mention what the newspapers are saying. I know you had a video about this where it's like the language that this is such a masterful manipulation psychologically of what they do to use the right words in these places, and it works. It works. What are some of these word switches that you've seen?
No, I mean it's obvious from like the new Western media. Like what everyone has been seeing is that Palestinians are dying or are dead when Israelis are massacred or killed or murdered. Like those types of things are like very blatant things that are in the news media. But in general, like we're just dehumanized as across the board. Like Palestinians are it's so blatantly outward now, the dehumanization, where politicians are literally standing on a podium and saying like things like I forget his name, that absolute horrible human, calling I know they're all horrible, but like calling the students little guys, like insinuating
Tom Cotton, this big-eared piece of shit from Arkansas. Yeah,
horrible human being by basically saying little Gaza, insinuating the word Gaza is even a bad thing, because just calling it Little Gaza and making it sound like Little Gaza is just a bunch of a whole town of terrorists, in a sense, is just disgusting to hear. And it's being thrown out everywhere. And now you're seeing, like, the Zionists are being exposed left and right. Like, they're digging now. They're essentially digging their own hole or own grave, in a sense. With their actions. Like, we are peacefully protesting. They are coming up to us, calling us terrorists, calling us this and that. And that is actually being reflected now in the way our politicians speak. And it's just a whole systemic dehumanization effort that's actually, for the first time, not working. I'm seeing it not working anymore. Social media wise, like, they're doing everything in their power to silence us and then amplify all of this rhetoric around the students being pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, pro all of this garbage. When in reality, like, we know exactly what these students are doing. They are the future. They are a beautiful, glimpse into the future and, like, what could be, in a sense. And I think it's a beautiful thing to witness, and for them to dehumanize them, demonize them the way they are. It just, in the long run, in the future, will make these politicians look so horrendous. They already look horrible as it is, but we'll see how bad they look in the future.
It's symptomatic of a failing empire scrambling to hang on to its relevancy, economically. So I was just looking. This is good news for everybody out there who's listening. Samsung just pulled out of Israel, and they cited because there's an ongoing investigation at the ICJ, but also that the economic situation in the country is not good. So 70% of the construction projects that were going on in Israel flat ended. And that's because they rely so much on Palestinian labor. And all of a sudden, everybody's a terrorist, and then nobody can work. And then we find out that, it's not so easy for little plans. But so the good news is their economy is faltering. And that's what I think it is. I just think it's symptomatic of this whole thing falling apart. And I really hope that it does soon. Because the discourse, too, I mean, it seems like the majority of Democratic voters already say, we don't like what's going on over there. And 80% said they think that Gaza was handled poorly by Joe Biden or whatever. So, yeah, you're right. I think that it's not working anymore. The old, all the tricks that they do to try to convince, it seems like it's not working. But yeah. And the other thing was Palestinians die while Israelis are killed. That was the big...
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was trying to say before, is that it's very blatant. Like, even Hind Rajab, Hind, who was that 6-year-old girl that was on the phone trying to scream for her life while she was surrounded by her family members in the car that were all martyred and killed. On CNN, a news anchor called her a woman, not a girl. Like, she literally says this woman was killed, and it's disgusting to see this. Dude. And to not see them. Like, sure, even if it was a mistake, go on air and say, we apologize that we called this girl a woman by accident. This is a 6-year-old girl who lost her life because the Israeli forces killed her. They killed her. All right. So then to have to see them call a 6-year-old girl a woman, it's disgusting. Like, they've gotten to the point where we're calling it, obviously, across the board, journalistic malpractice. That alone is like a soft term. Like, they are complicit in every single thing that we're witnessing today. Like, from the get-go, from reporting whatever Israel says to them without vetting it for 1 second. They reported a bunch of falsehoods and about babies being beheaded and all this garbage that all were debunked later on, but had already started that fuel or sparked that fire to continue the dehumanization and the genocide of white people. Like, that is, in a sense, complicity in this genocide. It's disgusting to see that. And for them to not stand on that sword and say, we screwed up. We did this. Like, we are very apologetic for what just has been happening. And it is on us that we have been misreporting. Because if they look at the Gaza journalists right now, they can run circles around every single Western news journalist on this earth. Like, I can't even emphasize that anymore. Like, they are the epitome of what it is to be a journalistic integrity and to be true journalists at reporting what is authentic, and literally while they're fearing for their lives and could die at any moment. So it's an affront. It's offensive to these journalists that their fellow peers are doing this to them across the world. It's disgusting.
something like 111 journalists killed so far.
So yeah, I think it's 124 now, I believe.
You got it? Okay, yeah. See, I don't see Tom Brokaw or any of these motherfuckers going out there risking their lives to, like, the journalistic integrity's out the window. Look at Piers Morgan. This dude
he's a literal like closeted, but not even closeted anymore. He's a full-on Islamophobe. That dude is only there for views. He brings on all these pro-Palestinians to try to break them down, but they're all basically exposing him for who he is. He's a straight up fascist, straight up Zionist himself. Like he is peddling all of the propaganda that every single Zionist peddles. So he's useless to me, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I always got a picture of him with Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm like, I'm going to put this on my desktop, so I always got this handy. To fucking, every time he says something, I'll go throw it on Twitter and say, "Shut up, bitch."
Yeah. Nah, and it's now. I mean, just speaking of the media and what's happening, like I'm sure you saw the news that the Democratic State of Israel essentially raided and shut down the only major news network in Gaza that is truly reporting everything at a global scale. In order to essentially blind the whole world to what is happening as we speak. Rafah is getting massacred. Literally, as we're on this call right now, children are getting ravaged. It's like, it's impossible for me not to look at the phone. It's breaking my heart every single second of every single day. But now we are on that last straw where Biden has gone on TV, gone live and said that red line for us is if they go into Rafah. Well, they're now in Rafah, bombing indiscriminately, and are now in their ground invasion of Rafah, where 610,000 children are currently either injured, sick, displaced, or diseased. And now they have nowhere to go. There's no safe zone left. And I don't care what safe zone they're trying to say is go back to Khan Yunis or go back to Mawadi or whatever it's called. It's disgusting to even see this right now, that 1.5 million people that have been displaced from their homes, that have gone to that supposed safe zone, now are being asked to be displaced again. To where? Like, seriously, to where?
They're doing this on purpose.
This is systemic. This is the definition, definition of ethnic cleansing.
Correct. They tell you to go to a spot so they know where you're going to be, and then just fucking kill them. They did that. They blew up the house, and then they said, come over here. They blew up this place, and then they went to a refugee camp. They blew up the refugee camp.
I mean, I just saw a stat, actually, from World War II and Vietnam combined, 26 years worth of war. Only 110, 111 journalists were killed in that entire span of war time. We are in our, 210th day, and we have 124 journalists being killed. And those are just the journalists. Their families are systemically being murdered, and their families are systemically being threatened so that they can stop reporting what is happening on the ground. That is happening as we speak. Like, within 200 days, that it surpassed the number of journalists being killed in World War II and Vietnam combined. So it's absolutely disgusting. And they act like that it's not a systemic targeting of journalists. It's not a systemic targeting of medical professionals, professors, even poets. Like, all of our best and brightest are being massacred and targeted as we speak. And they're acting like it's just by accident, or they're hiding behind Hamas, like all this garbage rhetoric that they're saying. It's really disgusting to see. People that believe it at this point, they're lost causes to me. I just want to make that very clear. if at this very point in day, right now, as we are sitting here today, you do not see the systemic corruption that is happening in the Western world and how they are beholden to a terrorist state of Israel, it is... You're lost to me. You've been brainwashed beyond repair. You are blatantly a racist. You are blatantly a threat to me and my family. And you should genuinely, you are a cancer to our society if you are peddling all of this nonsense, to pro-Israeli nonsense and rhetoric around justifying the murdering of children.
Yeah. And it happens at least once every 100 years. Some racial group or religious group gets something up their ass and thinks that they're better than everybody and decides that they need to eradicate them in times of economic downturn.
Yeah.
And then, and that's exactly what they're doing now. But then add on the subjugation for 75 years on top of it, and humiliation. Yeah, and I get into the people, they just come out of nowhere with their fucking narrow view of the thing, and I just copy and paste huge chunks of text, and I say, well, maybe you'll listen, maybe you won't. But at this point, there's a lot of debate that's just fucking over with human beings. We've already decided what's right and what's wrong. We've discussed it long enough. You guys have chosen your side. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to do what I need to do to fight for the values that I believe in. But yeah, at this point, there are people out there who have chosen their side, and fuck them. And
I guess the only silver lining, and I completely agree with you there, the silver lining to me is that line now has been so clearly drawn, and now we have picked sides. It's obvious. There's no gray line. There's no gray zone at all at this point. And what the Zionists now are seeing, and these politicians that are paid by the Zionists are seeing, it is an overwhelming majority in this nation and across the entire globe on which side these people are on, which is honestly on the right side of history. And it is enraging them. It is making them so angry that you are witnessing the complete spiral of madness, like what you saw in UCLA. Like, the Zionists are not there to protest. It's specific what they were trying to do. They are trying to intimidate, bully, physically, violently, and physically hurt these pro-Palestinian protesters and anti-genocide protesters, so that they get scared and stop all of this, this entire movement. Which, to the credit of the students, they are the bravest and most courageous human beings I have personally ever seen in all my years of life, where they're getting hit, they're bleeding from their faces and their head, they're washing it off, walking right back into that encampment like the heroes that they are. And it is a beautiful thing to see, and I am truly, truly in awe of them. It's just, honestly, for them to demonize people like that, who are truly throwing their lives and their livelihoods, their lives, their bodies on the line for humanity, it's just, to demonize them is just truly, truly abhorrent. It is a horrible thing to witness politicians that we have elected demonize people that are truly the most beautiful type of humans on this earth.
Yeah. And you know what else is even more disgusting than politicians is billionaires like Bill Ackman. Are you familiar?
Horrible.
What a piece of shit this guy is. So
him and Elon Musk, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's joining the party with the whole thing too now, retweeting the stupidest shit on earth. But Bill Ackman is a hedge fund billionaire who has decided that he wants to blacklist, in McCarthyism style, students who want to protest this genocide and blackball them from getting jobs after they get out of Ivy League universities, as well as, he threw in a bunch of money to the stock market in Israel so he could stimulate the a man who has no spine whatsoever, who has all this power, who wants to use it for evil. And
of course.
And he actually paid some of those counter protesters, those Zionist counter protesters. These are either the ones in Ole Miss or the ones somewhere. It was a frat group who was doing a GoFundMe after they did it. We were just doing it for America because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And homeboy Bill Ackman donates $10,000 to these people. I use the term people loosely.
No, that's true. I always have a hard time to say, like, how can I even refer to them when I post too? Yeah, I completely agree. No, I mean, we're seeing that systemically. Like, it's actually, I enjoy listening to that news or watching that news, where we're seeing this across the nation. They're literally hiring college students. They're paying college students to go out and protest, be the anti-protesters. It's just, it's gotten to the level of beyond pathetic to me. Where it just makes them look very desperate, and they are now in desperation mode. Like I said, the spiraling that we're watching from not just from the Zionists attacking protesters, but also at the level of the politicians making these bogus, stupid bills around equating the criticism of Israel to anti-Semitism, which is bogus in itself. Like, we have a majority of Jewish folks that are marching with us that are laughing at their faces at this very moment. And it's pathetic that they're even spiraling to that level to cater and bend over backwards for a foreign terrorist state that is funding them and putting money in their pocket. So it's really gross.
Fucking madness, dude. It's madness. And you know what? The bill that they passed would have like outlawed passages from the Bible. So all the Christians are like, I'm not sure if this is a good idea or not.
Yeah, all them evangelical, blind supporting sycophants. They're horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's obvious.
Whatever rallies people against their Islamophobia that they've been indoctrinated with since like 9/11 or whatever.
Yeah, it's before 9/11. We've all seen the cartoons. We've all seen the movies. We've all seen the Durka Muhammad Jihads and all that, all the garbage. Aladdin, Jafar. It's been all so systemic in our culture that now it's kind of we're seeing it so obviously, and the fact that Americans are waking up to this. Like, I mean, I'm not going to discredit Americans at all. Like, we have a beautiful group of people like that. Typically, like my friend, honestly, to be quite honest, my friends reached out to me after October 7th and watching all of my videos and really like truly listening and then actually taking the time to analyze like what they're seeing on Western media versus what their friend Mo is saying. And they're like, holy crap, this is madness. Like he's exposing like a lot of stuff that I never knew. And then they on their own are researching and being like, all right, what Mo said is actually correct. And they started to now like divert their attention from Western news media, which has been blatantly lying to their faces for their whole lives, in a sense, when it comes to especially Arabs and Palestinians, to being like, hey, Mo, man, we're literally going to you as the sole source of information on this. And I tell them, like, please don't do that because I'm just one person. But obviously, hear out the Palestinian. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is hear out us Palestinians. Make sure you understand what our perspective is. Then do your own research. Do not listen solely on these Fox News folks and like the Western media on what they're trying to peddle to you about us Palestinians and Arabs in general or Muslims in general. Do your research and see that we've been systemically dehumanized our whole entire lives. And specifically, like you said, after 9/11 was one of the. As a child, I was bullied for a really long time. To be very frank with you, where I got a lot of hit hard with that effect, and to the point where I felt almost ashamed. Well, not even ashamed. I was more like was not confident in saying I was a Palestinian anymore. Like it was just a difficult time for me as a child to have to deal with that. But after I woke up again, I'm so fully not just pro-Palestinian. I'm like so gung ho about fighting for my people, obviously. And what we're seeing today has emboldened us. Like I've always been emboldened and want to really speak proudly for who I am, who my people are, and what they've been going through for the past 76 plus years. But we now, and I just posted this recently, like I always felt like an emboldened Palestinian is the most powerful thing on this earth to me. But now I can see that there is actually a greater power, which is an emboldened Palestinian with the entire world behind their backs. And this is the first time in my whole life, genuinely and honestly, I feel like we have a movement of every single race, ethnicity, faith, age, gender, whatever, that are really truly fighting for us, and Jewish people included, that are actually our strongest advocates. And it's beautiful for me to witness, and it's actually emboldening, making us feel like our voices are stronger, and it makes me want to speak out louder. And I want to make sure I implore everyone to continue to speak out louder, especially now because of what's happening in Rafah. We are going to see a whole slew of really, really gruesome videos and photos and people are not going to like seeing, but we have to do it because they have no voice over there. And they send it to us to be the conduits and the mediums to share it with the world. And that needs to happen. We need to be louder than ever, not just us Palestinians, all the non-Palestinians, all the human beings on the side of humanity need to be louder than ever.
Yeah. We need to share each other's videos. We need to keep talking about it, keep blasting out there, use your social media presence to continue to post things about it. Go troll New York Times, go troll all these people. Don't let them get away with what they've been doing, which is lie. And even somebody who worked there was saying that they were specifically told not to use words like war crime and stuff like this. Stick together, stick with each other. I mean, we've got good other alternative news sources. We got MintPress, right?
Yeah, we got MintPress. We've got Euromed is always good. They have like very, very good statistics. What else we got?
Africa Stream,
Middle East, Eye on Palestine.
AJ Plus.
AJ Plus. Yeah, AJ Plus is great.
RedStream also is pretty good. It's the commies.
Yeah.
Love them.
RedStream. And then honestly, we've us, like, really the strong voices on social media that are on, like, I'm not a network at all, but I have direct correspondence with Gazans, and I get direct video feeds from them that are straight off the ground. And that is like the biggest, I think, truly, like, the way that the AG pluses, the Euromeds, and Middle East Eyes, they process the information. It's a beautiful thing. It's like very well done in terms of reporting and truthful reporting, like Al Jazeera does, obviously, at a global scale. But for there are true voices that are showing you exactly what is happening in real time, like me, like the Jinans, like the Doc Nafian, like Nafia Khan, like all of these, like, really big voices on Instagram and Twitter, that we're getting feeds directly from Gaza. Like, I have genuine, like, now friends that I have been corresponding with for the past few months that are yelling for their lives, but also at the same time being like, hey, Mo, look at this. Look at what just happened today. Please, can you share this and show the world what's happening? So I want everyone to be able to listen to us Palestinians as well.
And if people want to collaborate with you, they should try, or are you able to? I
can't anymore. That's the thing. That's why I'm in social media jail. That's one of the things that they're...
But you can't do it to other people, but it's also they can't do it to you either.
They can't collaborate. They say my name is grayed out. I'm locked out completely. I can't collaborate with anyone. Like, even for you, if you were to want to collaborate this podcast with me, it's not gonna let you, which is gross. So that's why I created a backup account for that very reason. But at the same time, it's not close to the reach that I have here. Yeah,
we'll write a story about this because it's fucked.
I'm literally barred from doing anything. I'm just here to put out any content to my followers now. At this point, it's just from me, and I need people to amplify it at this point. But they've barred me from doing anything, collaborating. People can't collaborate with me. It's been, honestly, it feels like my hands are tied at this point.
Well, my platform is your platform. If you got stuff that you need to get out, I'm there for you 100%. Don't care.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Yeah. That was all we can do, man. We're in the education game now. We're trying to educate people because it's this.
I agree. That's what I say. We're all in this together at this point.
It's a good weapon to have, yeah. So we'll come back and do this again so that we can keep in touch, because I don't, what's going on more than anybody else. I talked to Layla Farsak. She's an awesome Middle Eastern activist, author. She's awesome, but she's really busy. So if you have more time, come back and do this again and keep us all informed about what's going on. Sound good?
No, for sure. And I appreciate you, Chris, for giving us that platform to get our voice heard. So
yeah, and I'll come prepared next time with more stats and more.
This is good.
Stories. But any last words? What are you going to tell people before we get the hell out of here?
Honestly, I'll just reiterate it again. I want you guys to pay very close attention to what's happening in Rafah now as we speak. I know there's a lot happening, domestically with the students. Always show them your support. And I think that's very critical. But at this very moment, we're, like I said, on that last straw. They have displaced 1.5 million Palestinians to Rafah. And now they just as of today, dropped those leaflets from the sky saying they need to be displaced again. They need to leave and evacuate to God knows where. 1.5 million, let me say again. And there was just a statistic that came out. Not only are there 610,000 children there, pretty much every single one of those 600,000 plus children in Rafah are either injured, sick, diseased, or essentially starving. They're malnourished. And every single one of them. And they are asking those 610,000 children to move again to nowhere. And as we speak, while they're asking them to do that, we're watching indiscriminate bombing. Essentially, we're getting a live feed on that, where whole families have been wiped out. Currently, like as of last night, there have been multiple families wiped out completely, and many, predominantly children, being killed at this very moment. And we're just posting as much of that as possible. I know it's, again, difficult to see, but the world needs to see this and needs to scream louder than ever. I can't, again, emphasize this more. This is the time to be your loudest. And So yeah, that's the last thing I have to say.
Yeah, and that's all I have to say too. This is one of many things in our life that we're going to have to deal with as human beings. We always go back to conflict, oppression. I'm very disappointed with my species in the fact that we do this with everybody all the time. We do this to our neighbors. We do this in traffic. We do this to other countries. We do this to poor people. It never ends, and it could so easily end if we just tried to give a fuck just a little bit and exercise some empathy. And a lot of times it just takes trauma. People have to go through some immense trauma to go, oh man, that made me feel bad. I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. But then on the other hand, people believe in wild things like God, and it tells them to kill people that are brown. We got a long way to go.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, man. And then just to touch really briefly on what you just said, it's all truly what the Palestinians have been able to expose is the systemic nature of how this is all linked. You're seeing things like in the Congo and in Haiti and things that have been very, I think there's no, it's not a coincidence that the U.S. has stationed themselves all over the Middle East, encroaching on their very livelihood and the way they're living in every single country there, and while backing a terrorist state that is in direct conflict and threatening every single country that surrounds it at every waking moment, and that the U.S. is so blindly backing that. So I need people to wake up and open their eyes to that, because it is systemic. It's not just affecting the Palestinians; it's affecting every single person on this earth. Like the way they're an affront to international law. They literally can look you in the eye and say we can get away with anything because the U.S. backs us and the UK backs us, Germany backs us. Like it's to see the Western powers that be being the only countries that back this country. Wake up, people! Like there's a reason behind this.
So starting in 1947, you got the Nakba. Then 1956, you got the Suez Canal crisis, which Israel again antagonizing other countries. War in 1967, again antagonizing other countries, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse until
Yeah, and then they self-victimize themselves after they bomb an embassy, Iranian embassy. They say, "Oh, we're going to bomb them," and then if they react, that's them starting a war with us. And that kind of garbage.
And the news will only tell one side. Forget to tell, oh yeah, no, that started. Or they'll say, like we were mentioning earlier, that they say a thing that's wrong, and then they like retract it later, but they know that the damage is already done if you just let it. Oh, we just threw this thing out that the IDF told us, and we printed it, and then everybody reads it. They go, "Oh no, 40 babies," and everybody's against you. And then they go, "Oh well, we took it back." It's like,
well, I mean, that's the thing that we're seeing now, and we've exposed as well. It's like the CNN whistleblower exposed that it's clear Israel says something out of their mouth, the U.S. media and Western media runs with it within milliseconds. But we now know that if anything comes from Gaza or anything comes from Palestine or any media or news agency that is credible and UN backed and internationally backed by every single human rights organization, that if they provide news to these Western media outlets, they have to vet it through not only their powers that be, but also through the Jerusalem powers that be and the Israeli government, and IDF has to review every single ounce of news that come out of Palestine before it airs. So that's a very clear. It's very obvious. Like you even see it on the posts. Like you see a massacre happen a day before. We know how the news works. We know how the Western media wants to be the first to report everything at all times. But when it comes to Palestinians, they wait. You can tell they're waiting. It's like 24 hours to even sometimes a week before they report on something that we as Palestinians, as normal citizens in this world, know before they do. No, they just don't want to report it until way later, until it's all over and done with.
And one thing that gives me hope too is that the footage from their little terrorist attack, which was it's terrible, whatever, but the 1,200 or whatever, but the 34,000, there are so many videos that are capturing this, and this is in our favor. Like this is going to spread like wildfire. And I think activists, anybody who's listening, get a big projector, project the shit everywhere all the time, like at these events. And I think that would, even if counter-protesters saw on a projector what they were actually counter-protesting, that it might add a different vibe to the whole thing. But this was just me.
Yeah, and then to the point of the 1,200, just one last thing, and I've kind of been screaming this from the get-go. You've noticed that their numbers have been dwindling since the beginning of that day, right? So they started off with the 1,400, fast forward, 1,200, fast forward again, 695 civilians, like actual innocent civilians.
Oh, really?
It's and majority, like a lot of them, have been killed through the Hannibal directive that we've all seen. Like it's very clear what they've been doing since October 7th is just justifying a means to kill as many Palestinians as humanly possible. So it's blatantly obvious that people are calling this a war when all we're seeing is the Palestinians dying by the thousands every single day. But on the Israeli side, all we're seeing is actually the numbers going down since October 7th. So that's where it's blatantly like obvious how
Hannibal directive.
Yeah, I mean that was actually reported by Israeli news sources, not even us. So don't even take it from me. It's blatantly like obvious that they killed their own hostages. It's they don't care about the hostages. We all know that. It is what it is.
Yeah, I wrote an article about it. It's like Israel has killed more of their own hostages than Hamas has.
Yeah, exactly.
This is vetted. And everybody who's watching me, like, I laugh to keep from crying. So if I look like I'm having a real good time over here, I'm really not. I'm just trying.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Trust me. There's a sense of numbness, but it's not really. We see it so much. I want people to understand that when we say numbness, it's really. I want us to stay away from the word desensitized because I don't want this to be the norm. What we're seeing is not normal, which is why I'm saying. We need to be as enraged as humanly possible, like more than ever, please, because what we're seeing has become so technically normalized because it's been happening every single day. And I know personal people that are skipping through my stories. They're like, oh man, here's another dead child. Here's another dead child. I don't want to see this anymore. This is too sad for me. It's too sad for my day that I want to go to brunch and have a good time. Like, but no, this is like a true human issue that everybody needs to be yelling from the rooftops. Because the one thing I ask you is, if you and your family were going through this, if your children were in a school being bombed and they're attributing your entire child's school being bombed to one Hamas member being there, is that what we would do here in the U.S.? Fuck no. No, there's no way in hell anybody would ever legitimize bombing an entire school or entire hospital because one terrorist is in there. No, there's a systemic way of strategizing to extract that person out without, minimizing civilian casualties. We all know this. Like, I'm not a tactician. I'm not in the military, but we are all smart enough to know that is not what people will do here in the U.S. Like, we will not bomb an entire school or hospital if there's one terrorist there. So the fact that they go on live TV and think that is a valid argument or excuse is pathetic. It's idiotic. Honestly, like, if you look me in the eye and say that, get the hell out of my face. You are an idiot to me.
It's shocking. The more that I interact with people on the internet, the more I realize how dangerous. Like, I don't go out into public. I go out public less and less because I'm realizing I'm rubbing elbows with some of the stupidest, most violent, dangerous morons possibly. Yeah. There's some good people mixed up in there too, but there's just a lot of those people roaming around. No internal monologue, no sense of empathy, no sense of anything beyond their own primitive urge to eat and fuck, and they're on autopilot. They don't give a fuck. So anyway. All right, Mo Hamza, my new friend, my comrade. Come back and do this again. Stick around. I'll end it here, and then we'll have to talk about this. Bye, everybody. Take care of yourself, and
thanks,
free
guys.
Palestine.
Thanks, guys.